Good day, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the show on this Monday, December 5th, 2022. Thank you for tuning in. I'm glad to have you guys here. Now, here's the thing. I've been talking about this for ages. The derivatives market. 1 quadrillion in derivatives out there. This represents something called leverage. You guys don't understand what leverage is? Within the system, they can take $1, and you know how they can actually, through the magic of fractional reserve banking, they can take $1 and expand that into more and more and more and more money. Basically, they can lend 90% out on 10, and they keep a 10% in reserve. That's what they used to be able to do. Now, through new rules and stuff, they can just about unlimitedly expand the monetary supply. But as they do, it means they're actually creating debt, and that means on the other side of that debt, there's somebody who that debt is owed to. This is essentially leverage, but then they have other tricks that they can use. So what we're going to be discussing in this program this morning is one particular type of leverage, something big enough to bring the entire system down, because it's in the multi-trillions of dollars. But it's just one specific spot where there's leverage. There's other spots within the system we can't see. I don't know all the spots where there's leverage, but I do know that it mounts into the quadrillions of dollars out there. If you don't know how much that is, we know that if you have $1 million and you times it by 1,000 million, you've got 1 billion. And if you take that billion and you multiply it by 1,000 times, then you have a trillion. And if you take that trillion now and you suddenly multiply it by 1,000 times, then you have a quadrillion. It's a massive, unbelievable amount of money. If you made a stack of money, it would be enough to stretch from here past our solar system. If you stacked it, that's how much money it would be. And so, I mean, what are we talking about here? We're talking about leverage within the system. Now, what's the opposite side of leverage? Is when the leverage deleverages. And this means when we go back to what we had before we had created the leverage in the first place. So this is what happens when you pay all the debt off. Well, you can't do that because all the money would disappear within the system. Because it's not money. It's just leverage. The whole system. I guarantee you, without a doubt, that dollar you got in your pocket right now has been created from leverage. So if the leverage disappears, poof, so does the dollar you got in your pocket. So we're going to identify one form of leverage here, and we're going to get started. Let's open up the charts right here and take a look at this. Huge, missing, and growing $65 trillion in debt sparks concerns. Oh, it should spark concerns. This is bigger than the national debt. $65 trillion. Who could fix a hole that big? Well, they do have an unlimited printing press. But in order to fix a hole that big, they would have to create enough leverage to fix a hole that big, they would destroy the entire financial system. Even the ones who have that kind of ability. So $65 trillion. This story's from Bloomberg. It says there's a hidden risk to the global financial system embedded in a $65 trillion of dollar debt being held by non-U.S. institutions via currency derivatives, according to the Bank for International Settlements. In a paper with the title Huge, Missing, and Growing, the Bank of International Settlements said a lack of information is making it harder for policymakers to anticipate the next financial crisis. In particular, they raised concerns with the fact that the debt is going unrecorded on balance sheets because of accounting conventions on how to track derivative positions. And this is, in other words, you don't know what's really lurking out there until the system starts to blow up. That's basically what they're telling you. Until the derivatives start to pop, you can't even put an asset value on them or an asset value or even track these derivatives positions. It's a debt time bomb in the system. It says the findings based on data from a survey of global currency markets earlier this year offer a rare insight into the scale of hidden leverage Foreign exchange swaps were a flashpoint during the global financial crisis of 2008 and the pandemic of 2020, when dollar funding stresses forced central banks to step in. They had to step in to help struggling borrowers. It says, to be sure, the debt is fully collateralized and backed by hard currency. To understand how the system works, consider a Dutch pension fund buying assets in the United States as part of the transaction. It will often use foreign currency swaps to exchange euros for dollars. So this is what we're talking about here, is a foreign currency exchange between euros for dollars, a euro-dollar swap, euro-dollar swap lines. This whole thing, I'm just going to have to kind of lump it all together with so many other forms of derivatives in the market, so many other forms of ways that they've increased leverage, so they can make themselves rich, basically, is why they've done it. They call it fugazi. They basically use these money multipliers. It's not money multipliers, it's debt multipliers. And this is fine. To expand this debt and multiply it, make themselves rich on money that's not even real. But this money, on the opposite side of that, is when it shrinks. So they expand it, but at a certain point when debts have to be paid back, and they always do, it has to shrink. And there's where the trouble comes in. This is where the system becomes illiquid. So what does the Fed do? It comes along, and it does like the repo madness that we saw at the beginning of the 2009 pandemic, 2019 into 2020, at the beginning of the pandemic. The repo madness, the window they had it open, where trillions of dollars were swapped, was to try to plug a hole in the system, a debt leverage hole. All they do is expand it even further to fill the hole. In other words, they make the problem bigger. They're not making the problem go away. The only way to make the problem go away in the system is to pay off all debt or deleverage the system and then start fresh. It flushes. It's like flushing the toilet. It's kind of like somebody, they haven't flushed the toilet in like 4 weeks. And it's overflowing, and it's all over the floor in the bathroom and stuff. And they say, no problem, we can cure that problem in the bathroom. They go in there and they hear, say, what are you doing? Oh, we got some of this perfume here. Doesn't it smell nice? Now the problem's fixed, and they shut the door. You gotta flush the damn toilet if you're gonna fix the problem. And that's the way with the system out there right now. It's over-leveraged. It needs to be flushed. But the problem is they've got it to a point where if they flush the system, they're going to freeze everything. And basically, everything will come to a stop. You can't now. You can't. We're trapped. The Fed's trapped. And this is what it's all about. They say, oh, the Fed's trapped. Yeah, the Fed's trapped. Everybody's trapped. The entire system. It's math. This means dead ahead in our future, we have a crisis coming of unprecedented proportions. The only question is when. Not if. Math dictates it has to happen. The over-leverage in a system that's growing larger and larger and larger dictates that the situation, it has to happen. The only question is when. And that's what my show is all about. It's been all about since the very start, as I've saw this crisis coming. And they have been able to kick the can further than I ever thought possible. But there is, about kicking the can down the road. Finally you hit the point where the can's going to go over a cliff. And one more kick, that's all it takes. It's going to go over a cliff. That's where we are. And how far away is that? I don't know. I can't tell you even now. Because they've been so successful at kicking the can. Anyway, listen, guys, I got to get in and show you what the prices are in the markets today. We're going to take a look at silver first. At $22.38, it's down 72 cents. So we had a little smackdown. We were up over $23. But still looking good considering it was just a few months ago, it was $18.50 or thereabouts. So we're still up right now at $22.38 for silver. Let's take a look at gold. 1778 is down $19.20. That was a nice little smackdown. I shouldn't say nice. It was a nasty little smackdown. But she's bouncing back right now. Let's take a look at crypto. Crypto is 857 billions, or almost 858. And that translates to a Bitcoin price of 17,090 and an Ethereum price of 1267. Let's take a look at the Dow Jones Industrial Average, and it's down 209 points on the day so far. And down 198 right now, 34,230. So that's where the Dow is sitting. Let's take a look at crude oil at 80.91. Now we're going to take a look at the MOVE index, which has been really low lately. You know, it's kind of like we stayed along that charted course where we were going for almost a whole year. And now it's been, ever since May of this year, it's been going nowhere. It's just been going sideways for the MOVE index. So we're at 118.62. Bonds and rates today, we're looking at climbing yields. 3.57 on the 10-year and 3.6 on the 30-year. 3.6, yeah, it's up 4 basis points on the 30-year, and the 10-year is up 6.7 basis points. Now for the dollar index, 104.92 on the day so far. Anyway, listen, I went to a Waffle House this morning. And the ladies that were working in there said, hey, this is the last day for this Waffle House. In fact, I guess they were going to tear it down, tear the building down. It was over. And I'm going to tell you, it's cold inside there. The heater wasn't turned on. They already had the heater turned off. And I'm going to tell you, the temperature was like 48 degrees or something inside the restaurant. So I had this hoodie on, and I needed it. But the food was good, you know. And the girls in there, you know, they were sad because it was the last day, you know, and stuff. They were taking pictures, I guess, or stuff, or mementos. They wanted mementos and stuff. And I guess they worked there for a while, you know, or whatever. You know, people are like sad. They're just sad it's the last day. So we sat in there and had something to eat, you know, and it was nice. But it's really sad because across America right now, we see things being destructured. And when we see this happening, it's a sure sign that a deleveraging event is coming down the road. As we see us moving toward recession, people starting to lose the front edge. This is the front edge of this, guys. People starting to lose their jobs. That's the front edge of a deleveraging event. And the Fed is causing this. The Fed's trying to fix the economy by breaking the economy down. If you're going to repair a house, you don't go in and start smashing away at the foundation and tearing the foundation down to try to do a renovation of a house. Or you're gonna cause structural impairment to the house, and the house will have to be torn down. And what the Fed's doing right now to the United States economy is the collateral damage they're doing. They're basically smashing the foundations of the American economy, and this is why you're seeing these businesses that just can't withstand. I mean, it's amazing that they were able to stand all the way through COVID, but now COVID's starting to go away, and the businesses are finally losing the ghost. They can't keep it in there. They can't keep enough people working. They can't find enough cheap employees, people that are willing to work. Blah blah blah. It's just on and on. It's just coming at them, one thing after another, where they just can't keep the lights turned on, and they have to close their businesses. Some of these businesses have been in the family for like different people's family for like decades, and suddenly they're having to close up. This is what you see at the front edge of a deleveraging event. And because the system is so leveraged this time, and there's no escape. In 2008, we had an escape route. The Fed was able to print our way out of it. I don't see that this time. This is going to be a deleveraging like we've never seen before into a depression. And then they're going to try to leverage out, which is going to affect the value of the currency. They're going to try to, re-leverage the system, leverage their way out of this. That's just going to destroy the currency, the purchasing power of the currency. And then I see nothing more, nothing less than the people getting to a point of resentment and anger where they actually tear the system apart with their bare hands. And we see the front edges of this anger expressing itself like people going in and shooting up what do they call it, distribution centers. I've told you guys about this. Do you see how vulnerable your electrical grid is? This morning. Bangity, 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 or whatever, yesterday, whatever they did it. They go in there and just bangity, 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 and next thing you know, the power's out for like a month. To hundreds of thousands of people. What's to stop these groups being coordinated and taking down most of the grid or half of the grid where you live? What you gonna do then? Because they don't have enough transformers. I mean, if it's gonna take them maybe weeks to fix what we see here, with being able to bring transformers in and stuff from other places close by, what happens when it's a wider spread problem and they can't get the transformers anymore? And they say, oh, it's going to be a year before we are able to get the transformers. Then what's going to happen in your community if they come out and they say, oh, by the way, for the 100,000 people that live in this area, this county or whatever, and the county next to us, oh, there's another 100,000. Oh, we got 1 million now? Oh, they're at the press conference. Oh, we got 3 million people without power now? Oh, by the way, it's going to take about a year to restore it. Well, you know, studies have been done. You knock this power grid down for a year, you come back into that area, 90% of the population is not going to be there anymore. Why? You want to know why? Because they can't get their medication. They can't get essential services. There's no sewage. The city water supply, the pressure's going to run out after a month or so. Gas stations can't pump gas anymore. Food stores can't bring food in anymore. The system turns to anarchy. And then there's more power outages because the people out there are going to sabotage everything. They'll be running their cars into telephone lines, trying to get out of whatever. It's just like something out of a Mad Max movie. That's why 90% of the population is not going to be there after a year or two. They're just going to have vanished. Vanished, I mean, you know, what can I say? That's what happens if our power grid and our internet and our telecommunications networks go down now. Because we've made ourselves vulnerable. Because we don't have what we had back in the 1800s when we didn't have any power back then. We didn't have power. 100% of the population would make it through a year without power back then because we didn't have power, we didn't miss it. We didn't have the computers. We didn't have all this debit cards and all this crap that we have now. Facebook and all this crap. We didn't have all that crap. You know what we did have? We had horses and plows. We had our own way of making food, each and every one of us. We had little stores, you know, out in the country stores, where people could go to and they could even barter in these country stores. And they used to use gold and silver as money. What an incredibly resilient system we used to have. And you know what we got now? Garbage. We've replaced it for garbage. Garbage that cannot support us and keep us alive in the state of a crisis situation. And the crisis can be just as simple as the power going out. It's just as simple as somebody out there that's discontented and taking it out on the power grid. We got a lot of discontented people out there that could take it out on the power grid. And this just shows you that there are people out there who are discontented. Right? And you know, I mean, how do you cure that situation? You need to have people that are sane. This system is making people, locking people in their homes and saying you can't leave your house. Do you know what that did to our children during this period of COVID period? Where they're basically what they call a lockdown? This does not make people sane and rational. This does exactly the opposite. And then we put all of our eggs in one basket in a system where all of our support relies upon the internet and our power grid. And then we say, okay, we got to we got to change this kind of system. We got to go for green energy, renewable resources, so and so. Yeah, that would be nice. But you're going to plug all those EV cars into the power grid that's ready to fail anyway? You got to go over and do the infrastructure first. I mean, this was a great idea. They were going to put through an infrastructure bill and spend a lot to increase our infrastructure and make our power grid safe and secure. Great idea. But what do? They make a big bill with a lot of money, piles and piles of money for that, and then it goes into these fat politicians' pockets. And it doesn't get a damn thing done to the actual power grid. Because there's so much corruption in the system right now, you can't get nothing done. It's over, guys. It's over. We've moved too quickly into this techno society. We should have taken our time more. Going back to around 1980 or 1970, when we had these grandiose ideas with all these college boys coming out there. Oh, we got great ideas. We're going to fix the cars. First thing we're going to do is work on the cars. We're going to change the cars. Not going to have roll-up windows on the cars anymore. You're going to have a push-button window. Well, yeah, what happens to the guy who drives off the side of the road and into a lake with that push-button window? He ain't even going to be able to roll his window down to get out of his car. Heated seats and everything else. So first they've worked on the political system. And you see what a mess they've made of it. And now they can't even get a job out there with their college education any longer. They have to work at Waffle House that's closing. The system is staggering. It's like a drunk person staggering back and forth. Without a bit of support, sooner or later it's going to fall over and clunk its head against something. But yeah, staying upright right now so far. Staggers back this way and staggers over that way. Anyway, listen guys, thank you for listening to my show this morning. Like and subscribe. And remember, hit that notification icon. And we'll catch you guys in the very next episode. Bye-bye.